Dylan Raiola was named the starting quarterback at Nebraska today, and we need to talk about what that means for Nebraska, what that means for Raiola, and why so many people are invested in this decision, as we have got a slew of quarterback decisions across the country, and we expect a slew more before we start playing week 1 football. You'll know that the season begins on Saturday, officially for us, with Florida State taking on Georgia Tech in Dublin. DJ Uiagalelei and Haynes King, I almost said Brent Key. Haynes King are your starting quarterbacks there. We know across the country, Miller Moss is starting for USC. The folks in Boise, Idaho, claim to know that Maddox Madsen was always going to be the guy, but they still kind of make this hedge that Malachi Nelson is going to be the guy. And I'm going, all right, a lot of this is riding on Dirk Cutter, who is, got an NFL pedigree, but so does Eric Bieniemy. But that doesn't mean that the quarterback selection is going to be that great or that they're going to be that great at quarterback. I also think as we're going down the line here, this decision was way more important than many people know for a number of reasons. The first one is Raiola is considered the second highest commit ever in the rankings era for Nebraska. I think that what he could mean for Nebraska in the 21st century is what Ndamukong Suh meant for Nebraska in the 21st century. A guy that can put you into national prominence quick, fast, and in a hurry because he is that good. He is that talented. He finished the last cycle as the number 7 overall recruit, and he has all the tools, and he flashed him in the spring game. There's also drama that is associated with Raiola, who flew across the country to play high school football, right? We're talking about going from Gilbert, Arizona, all the way out to Georgia, committing to Ohio State, decommitting from Ohio State, committing to Georgia, and then just days before the signing period, flips his commitment to his father and uncle's Nebraska. And this is why this is so seismic for Nebraska. They open up against UTEP in week 1, but then they got a really great and awesome game against Colorado in week 2, where the two quarterbacks are going to be the stars that people watch the most outside of Travis Hunter and whatnot. If Dylan Raiola can pull off a win against that Colorado team, college football fans will be like, yeah, okay, it's Colorado. They went 4-8 last year. Maybe they got a little bit better this year. Maybe they'll go bowling. But for Nebraska, that would also signal, okay, we could probably get through the first half of our schedule with 1 loss or fewer, or maybe even start the season 5-0. You take a look at the schedule. It's one of the reasons that some folks have ranked Nebraska in their top 25 in the preseason. I'm not one of them, but I don't think Nebraska's that far off. I don't know that a win against Colorado will vault them into a top 25 for me. I think it's going to be more like you look around and Nebraska's still got a 0 next to their name after week 3, after week 4, and we start to think about them differently and how they were able to go about winning, because this is a program that is on the cusp of relevance once again. And by relevance, I mean going bowling for the first time since 2016. They should have done it last year. They had opportunities to get to 6 wins last year and just could not finish ball games. And the bugaboo for them was the quarterback position. They thought they had something in Jeff Sims. Turns out that was not true. He transferred to Arizona State. He got beat out by Sam Leavitt. One of the things that was holding Jeff Sims back at Georgia Tech and at Nebraska was he couldn't hold on to the football. Couldn't be trusted to not throw the football to the other team, put it on the floor. End up with Heinrich Hardenberg and a bona fide option quarterback and an option offense to finish the season. They finished damn near dead last, 129th out of 133 teams in turnover margin with -17. If Dylan Raiola can just take care of the football, there is proof positive that Nebraska can be a winning football team. Is it going to be the kind of team that competes for the Big Ten championship in 2024? No, but I don't think Nebraska fans are that unrealistic. I think they do think that 8 or 9 wins is within reach, depending on who they're playing and how the season goes for them on the injury rate. But the other thing to take into account here is Raiola's last name. Huge, massive. We're talking about first family of footballs. We're talking about the Mannings. We're talking about the Sanders. We're talking about the Raiolas now. It's like that. His father is not only one of the most revered Huskers in history, He's an offensive lineman who got his jersey retired. That's a really difficult thing to do, even at a place like Nebraska. His uncle Donovan is entering his third year as the offensive line coach. So he's got a vested interest in keeping his nephew upright. It's also a guy who finally decided to come home, and we know how we feel about those of ours that come home in a sport that is regional for us, national when everybody else is looking at our teams. I think the name, image, and likeness stuff is a big part of it. I think if he goes to win football games, you're going to see Nebraska be on more national television. More national television for Nebraska means more national prominence. More national prominence means getting back to who they were. And we're talking about Matt Rhule going into year 2. Year 2 at Temple, he went bowling. Year 2 at Baylor, he went bowling. And then year 3, that's when he started competing for championships. We know that Matt Rhule knows how to program build. The one thing that I want to keep an eye on is what Troy Dannon does or doesn't do at this period, because Trev Albert made the Matt Rhule hire and helped get things going in the right direction before taking the job at A&M. Troy Dannon knows how to do this. He's coming from Washington. I'm really curious to see how this goes and how he is gelling with the folks in Lincoln, because outside of Oklahoma, there's only a handful of places that I think love their college football teams the way that Oklahoma loves OU, and Nebraska's one of them, man. Nebraska, Arkansas, I really always want to be good because those are the pro teams in those states. We 100% build our entire lives around that schedule. Alabama also figures into this, but Alabama's got Alabama and Auburn, and they both won national championships since 2010. There's only one real team in Nebraska. There's only one real team in Arkansas. I'm going to say there are 2 teams in Oklahoma, so it's a lot like Alabama in that way, but Oklahoma is the Sooner State for a reason. And I have always rooted for Nebraska from afar because my roots go back to them in the Big 8, being terrified of those 90s Nebraska teams that would beat the hell out of Oklahoma. That Tommy Frazier team in 1995 is on the short list of greatest college football teams of all time. Eric Crouch scared the bejesus out of me. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, just go hook up the highlights, my guy. That option was just a monster. And then Ndamukong Suh absolutely destroying whoever was in front of him. Damn near single-handedly beat Texas in the 2009 Big 12 championship game. He had a little bit of help, would have got it done. And now we've had this prolonged absence of Nebraska being at the front of the line because they made this move to the Big 10. There's no getting around it. This is what people fear about Oklahoma and Texas going to the SEC, what they feared about Texas A&M and Mizzou. It's turned out to be fine for Texas A&M and Mizzou. They're both top 20 teams this year. Nebraska is one of those programs that we're going, are you out of time? Are you out of space? How do you fit? This rivalry that you got with Iowa, it feels manufactured, it feels made up. You don't play Oklahoma. You don't play Texas. You play Ohio State, which is fine, but doesn't really fit for what we know of as Nebraska. You're playing Minnesota. You're playing Wisconsin. You're playing a bunch of teams. Rutgers, my gosh. It's, what are you now? And we know what Nebraska is. It's football, right? But the rest of the country don't know that. So there's a generation of kids that just do not understand Nebraska was to be feared. You know, the way that I've been talking about Oklahoma joining the SEC and how I'm going, a lot of the SEC folks seem to not know who Oklahoma is. That's what happened to Nebraska in the Big Ten. Nobody gave a damn, and they didn't show up winning right away, so nobody was forced to give a damn. Dylan Raiola is going to give you an opportunity for people to go, okay, I'll tune in, I'll see what they got. And maybe, just maybe, we'll start talking about Nebraska being that program that is on its way back. I mean, my goodness, guys. I don't normally get this fired up about Nebraska football, but once Matt Rhule made this decision, I said, cool, a true freshman 5-star. Let's get it. Let's go. Because he's got to win. They got to win. They got to get it in. They know what they have in the schedule. They know that this year is brand new for everybody. They know there's 12-team playoff. They know if they make it through their schedule, and they even sniff the Big Ten championship game, they got a shot to get in the playoff. And once you get in the tournament, anything can happen. Get into the tournament. I can't wait to see what Dylan Raiola can do. All he's got to do, though, hold on to the football, run the offense, don't do too much. It's okay. You have 3 years to grow into this job, right? Don't take it away from yourself too soon. Don't try to make too many plays too soon. If it ain't there, it's fine. Throw it away. I just want him to let his talent be his talent, because if he does, Nebraska's going to be able to soar, and they're going to be so much fun to watch. Come on, Dylan. Let's get it. Let's get it. Get after it, son. Nebraska deserves to be back on the pedestal. Let's get them there.